Hello and good morning to everyone. So, yung continuation ng topic natin, this is Module 1B. Pasintabi dun sa mga kumuha ng FS 122 na. Ito ay mostly the same material. Actually kasi itong units and dimensions ng FS 122 ay nanggaling talaga sa old FS 192 na topic. And since we're dealing with two sets of students, then this part na actually hindi masyadong ine-emphasize na sa bagong FS152 ay ituturo ko ngayon for the sake na rin ng mga nandoon sa old curriculum on top of their Physics 70 series. Okay, so for you guys na nag 122, review nyo na rin to. So sige, let's start. So kung kayo man ay into recycling or nung elementary school kaya probably may mga recycling drives, you would have known na sa mga junk shop noon, yung mga primitive ones, they used the dangkal as the official method of measuring how much newspaper you have. And as we know, this is a very problematic unit of measure, no? Kasi yung kamay ng mga tao, hindi naman pare-pareho ng lapad. Okay, and sadly, nung nakita ko ito sa Pape Melroti website since they use newspaper, di ba? Bumibili sila ng karton, not by weight, pero by dangkal. So, why? Di ba? Siguro dahil, I don't know, malaki yung karton, hindi kasya dun sa platform ng timbangan. But anyway, this gives us an idea how flawed measuring systems could lead to, flawed results. Imagine kung gumagawa kayo ng kotse tapos dangkal yung pang-measure nyo ng length. Sasabi ka lahating dangkal, how do you even start with that? Hindi ko alam kung yung gumawa nito ay seryoso sa kanyang pag-translate ng equivalence ng Filipino systems of measurement, no? Pero just to say, we do have something even before the SI or the English system, yung mga Pilipino, meron na silang talagang mga terms na ginagamit to reveal the weight or length or width or volume of something and even a sense of time, di ba? So, some of this of course makes sense, pero yung origin sila more or less ay hindi naman talaga mawa yung mga gatang, kaban, etc. Di ba? They were based more on a certain volume of measure that only happened to have an equivalent mass or weight. At least we had something indigenous. Oscar Wilde mentions that morality consists of accepting the standards of one's age, and that he finds this immoral kasi parang ang nangyayari ay yung morality ay nag-shift based sa quote-unquote progress, and it's not something na doesn't change with time. So unfortunately, the downside of that is of course may upside yan na halimbawa dati legal yung slavery, ngayon hindi na in most parts of the world. Pero at the same time, kapag nag-change for the worse yung isang bagay, yung society, nadadala rin ito yung mga worst changes as becoming the new normal. And sadly, kung nangyari yan sa units of measurement, that would be chaos. What if 1 kilogram now is no longer 1 kilogram as we know it, let's say 50 years from now? But actually, that is somewhat partially true before. So we started last time with defining units and dimensions. So simple lang naman yung goal natin dito na malaman natin yung primary dimensions and their base SI units. We don't need to memorize the definitions kasi rote learning yun and we're not after that. Pero sana maintindihan natin ano ba yung basihan sa lahat ng pagsukat sa mundo and how did they do it. It's the process rather than the actual definition. So pwede mong iparot yan pero hindi mo talaga na-gets kung bakit. And then of course, we should be able to do basic conversions of primary and secondary dimensions rather from one unit to the other, especially since in this world, hindi mag-agree ang mga tao on just one unit. Sa pressure pa lang, no, I have a bicycle, you have bar, you have PSI, you have whatnots, no? Buti nga yung temperature natin, Celsius and Fahrenheit lang yung iniisip. Okay? For you, kung timbang, you have pounds, you have kilograms, and kung nasa Europe ka, stones. Who the heck uses stones in this day and age? Alright, so these next 4 slides are just reminders from the last lecture, no? So, basahin nyo na lang ulit to recalibrate yourselves. Alright, reminders po, one of the biggest gripes I have with my students is that they give answers and then they forget to check if that they do account for balancing the equation by making sure that the dimensions are consistent on either side. No, sa chem sa stoichiometry, di ba, meron yan yung numerator, denominator, tapos cancel kayo. And then kailangan mag-cancel lahat ng dapat i-cancel hanggang sa matira na lang yung dalawang dimensions on both sides. So parang ganun din. Please don't stop when you have the answer, but take time to check it if it does match. Kasi kung hindi, bye-bye score yan. No? So sa mundong ito, merong dalawang major factions when it comes to units and dimensions. The English system, which is hindi mo maintindihan, and the SI system, which uses just 7 base units, 2 supplementary units, and then everything else is derived. So na-discuss na natin yung common na 4 dun sa base units, and then there are 3 more that you might use. No? I will discuss them in a while, and there's a video that you could watch. Okay, again, base units are those that are parang simplest form na, and you combine base units to have your derived units. Again, this is something I found on the net, describing how laughable the English system is. I personally agree. Sino man nakaisip niyan, hindi ko alam. Buti na lang na-invento yung SI, and we have 10 fingers on our hands. It makes base 10 counting much easier. So to imagine how bad the world was before, you could read this quote. Apparently, the French Revolution paved the way towards standardizing weights and measures. No, before, even if the European continent, for example, were countries na nasa iisang landmass lang, they had different units of measurements as many as they had currencies. No? So imagine if bawat country ngayon, pagpunta mo ay hindi lang yung pera yung kailangan mo i-convert, pati lahat ng timbang, ng volumes, pag mamimili ka or what. Chaos, utter chaos talaga. So again, the SI system was born out of a desire for standardization, and kasi nga dati, kung ano lang yung predicament, yung gusto ng hari, gusto ko na yung unit of length ay kung gaano kahaba yung daliri ko, parang ganun, no? But now, because of that, we enjoy the system that we have now, which is much simpler and allows scientists across nations to more or less speak the same language figuratively. And their quote is for all time, for all people. So as I mentioned, there are 7 base SI units. The ones for length, mass, time, and temperature madalas natin gamitin, and probably for the amount of substance, and they are denoted respectively by meter, kilogram, second, Kelvin, and mole. Take note that temperature is in Kelvin and not in Celsius because it deals with the absolute temperature. Then we also have yung less used in electric current and luminous intensity, which is represented by the ampere and candela respectively. So there have been changes, as I said before, paano kung yung 1 kilo ngayon, hindi na 1 kilo later. And experts worldwide, although maganda yung na-develop nila initially na SI system, na-realize nila na meron itong major flaw, and that is more or less dahil hindi lahat ng kanilang basehan for the SI units are constant. Like for example, yung prototype kilogram natin na nakastore sa 1 volt somewhere ay naglo-lose ng weight over time. Even though 0.0000 something grams yun, it's still something that's not constant, no? So on May 20, 2019, they decided na gawin ng bago yung mga definition, and you can watch the video in the link in the next slide.